hey guys, Mark and Aaron here from KNOX, back again reviewing another KTM today. This is the very, very exciting 790 Duke, their middleweight naked bike. We've had it for what, a couple of weeks now?
A couple of weeks.
I've not been lucky enough to ride it all that time. Aaron, you've been...
I've put a few more miles on it.
Yeah, but I've had the last couple of days with it, and I've got to say, it's a pretty fun bike. What do you think?
I absolutely love it. Honestly, I absolutely love this bike, and I'll probably handle two things. Firstly, it could be said that almost every bike that we review on the KNOX channel, we end up saying that we really like, or we're a fan, or whatever. But actually, about this channel, we've got no tie-ups with any other manufacturers. This is not how we monetize. I mean, we monetize by selling products at the end of the day. Sure. So anything that we choose to do is our own choice. And I don't review, or we don't want to review anything that we don't like, because it's just negativity, and that's why we haven't reviewed certain models. The second thing I should address is, why the hell are we at an airfield?
Good question.
Good question. Right. Well, look, it's my idea that I think this bike is an absolute bag of fun, basically, and there's probably just stuff that you can do on an airstrip that you can't do on the road, and hopefully we're going to show you some of the bits.
Let's not give away all the secrets.
Exactly.
Videos to follow, troops.
But anyway, I absolutely love the bike. I think it is so much fun.
It is. It's absolutely.
You'd agree, wouldn't you?
I've got to be honest. I've had a genuine interest in this bike since we first saw it. Well, I can't remember exactly when we saw the concept bike that KTM came up with, but we were talking about this bike in, I want to say 2017, at the NEC, at the bike show, and back then I thought, crikey, that is a serious bit of kit. Lots of reasons why. Primarily, obviously, the concept bike, and in fairness, I think we probably want to touch on the styling. It is obviously changed from that original concept. There's no centre exhaust. Obviously, you've got to house the lights, you've got to house the number plate. So it's not quite as scalpel sharp as the original concept, but it's not a million miles away. So, the first thing I saw was obviously the way that the bike looks. Then, of course, there's the price. So I think as it stands right now,
$8,500.
it's just over that, actually. I think they're retailing it now $8,799. Okay. So the other thing, of course, about this, which makes it really interesting, is the dry weight. So at 169 kilos.
That's light.
But actually, even though where it sits brake horsepower-wise in this sector, it goes like Billy-O, this bike, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah, so it goes like Billy-O. It is a hooligan bike, isn't it?
A total hooligan bike, yeah.
And the interesting thing about it is that kind of on paper, you talk about the power, the torque, it shouldn't really be as kind of crazy as it is when you ride it. But, of course, the really interesting is that the performance is fantastic, but it's immediately, the minute you get on it, you're instantly at home, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, hooning is probably a fair word to use, isn't it? We've been hooning around today.
Yeah.
Again, we've been taking some different shots, videos, images, and I have been enjoying myself.
Well, instantly you were really confident on it, Mark.
Yeah.
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 And I think that's probably a blend of all those specifications altogether. Obviously, yes, you've said 169 kilos dry weight, which is really light.
Yes.
It's got really nice power that's dead accessible. It's just like, as soon as you open that throttle, crack, and it's there. I mean, actually, for me, I can't do wheelies, and I probably shouldn't be doing it on a press bike, but I've popped my first ever wheelie on this bike, because it just it instills that confidence in you. It's a proper hoot, and if you're looking to have fun on a motorbike, I couldn't honestly recommend a more fun and engaging bike to ride.
So we talk about the engine and its power. It really is the centrepiece of this machine.
Yeah.
It's got loads of character. It makes a brilliant noise, pops and bangs on the overrun. And again, the way they've set that motor up, so the crankshaft position, the injection timing, I think the way they make
clever.
The characteristics of the motor mean it feels quite a lot and makes a noise like a V-twin.
In terms of engine characteristics, I mean, it's just so much fun. I mean, way more engaging than my bike. I mean, obviously I've got a GSX-R 750, and you know, in those short straights, it's just the power's instant.
It's accessible, isn't it? That's the other thing.
And you're banging it up that quick shifter. Yeah. It's so engaging, so much fun to use.
I think that sort of encapsulates what I enjoy about this bike the most. Anytime you ride it, it makes that kind of point, you know, you're going from X to Y, really good fun. And I know we were talking about the horsepower and how that stands up, and hopefully that might lead you into talking a little bit about how it compares against other motorcycles.
Well, sure, and actually that's one of the other reasons why we why we ended up coming here, because having ridden it quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, and it does feel so instantly fast. I mean, it had me thinking, crikey, is this bike faster than the GSX-R 750, or is it, you know, how would that compare? It's quite an interesting thing to me, because it literally, you know, it's very different power delivery, and, it's just wallop, you know.
Yes.
So anyway, that's exactly what we did. So now we're going to show you our strip race between between my bike and this bike, and let's see how we get on. So now we have the drag race. On the left, I've got the 790 Duke. On the right, we've got my benchmark of fast, which is my GSX-R 750. Let's get on with it, lads. 3, 2, 1, go! So I hope you enjoyed that one.
we definitely enjoyed it.
Well, yeah, I mean, hey, I was behind the camera. We had Jeff riding, actually both bikes, I think they both had a go. So Jeff, who's our founder and ex-racer, was riding, I think, the GSX-R.
Yeah.
You were riding this mainly.
Yes.
Were you surprised with the results?
I don't think I was necessarily as surprised as you were. I guess, you know, when you look at the numbers on paper, the GSX-R should win, and it did.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
What was quite interesting was, of course, you've got to get a good launch, and with the KTM, with the launch control, every time we stood up against the start line and went for it, I had the jump, I got the jump.
Every time.
Yeah, and you know, obviously it is a more difficult balance to get the power down on the GSX-R, so up to about, say, 50 miles an hour, this thing was right there.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely right there. Of course, with a quick shifter, bam, you threw the gears.
If not in front.
Yeah. And there was like one race, I think we maybe did 5 or 6 runs just to make sure, because I think even when Jeff crossed the finishing line first on the first occasion, he was a bit shocked to see me not that far behind.
So at the end of the strip, and it wasn't measured, but on the GSX-R we got up to 120 mile an hour. On this we were up to about 105.
Somewhere between 105 and 110. It would very much depend on how good my gear changes were, whether or not I was ringing it just to the right point and then changing. On a couple of occasions I was going right into the limiter, because I was desperately trying to run and hide from the GSX-R that was coming up behind me very quickly indeed. But I think, you know, ultimately, as we've spoken about before, in the real world, all the performance that this bike offers you is in a really sort of sensible rev range. You get to 3,000 RPM, up to sort of 8, 9, and it just delivers everything it has almost instantly. So it's brilliant in that respect. Whereas, of course, with a sport bike, with an inline 4 like yours is, you have got to let the bike really rev out. But once it gets up there, it comes past me like a missile, you know. I mean, it's
a train, isn't it? Well, I mean, you know, actually, that is so interesting. That's probably why this felt so quick, is because you're just in the power band all the time. Yeah. Whereas the GSX-R, you're winding it on. I mean, you know, 70, 80 mile an hour first gear, second gear 120 you can do. See, you know, there's 2 gears up to that front.
For the distance we travel.
You know, what we're in 4th.
I was in 4th at the red line.
Yeah. So you know, totally different power delivery. I was surprised that the GSX-R won, you know, pretty much every race.
I wasn't as surprised as you. I think you, and I alluded to this before. On paper, if you look at the numbers, actually, what's really interesting about that comparison is the dry weights are very, very similar. So 169, and I think we were talking about the 160 to 170 ish. But of course, the GSX-R's got another 50-ish horsepower, and once it's able to put that horsepower down the road, then power to weight ratio would suggest that the GSX-R should win, and in the end, that's exactly what it did. But it's a huge amount of fun and really interesting to see different configurations of engines going up against each other and how they put that power on the road.
So look, in line with the nature of this bike, we've been riding it pretty hard, and we've been wearing the gear to match. I've been wearing the Urban Pro shirt, which is brand new for us. Been flying up and down this airfield on it all day. The airflow on this product is just unbelievable. For the type of day we've had, it's been incredible. Yet at the same time, knowing that you've got that CE-approved protection there is really great. Again, when it's got a little bit cooler, just put the Ford leather jacket on over the top. It's been fantastic. The other thing I've been wearing is a brand new Richmond Mark II jeans, and I'm a real instant fan of this. It's got that right stretch. You take the armour out, it just feels like a regular pair of jeans. Been superb.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say snap, but I've been pretty much wearing the same stuff. I mean, we've been doing triple-digit speeds out there today, haven't we? And I've had the Urbane Pro on. I've had my Richmond Mark IIs. We've been really fortunate with the weather. It's been absolutely beautiful today, hasn't it? The sun's been out all day. A little bit of breeze, but nothing too much. And I've been able to get away with just wearing my Urbane Pro, knowing it's fully protected and it's got your Microlock armour in there, pair of Richmond jeans and a boots, and away you go.
Fantastic. So look, we're going to put all of the links in the description for all the gear that we've been wearing. Please go and check that out.
We ought to talk a little bit about the sort of technical aspects of the bike.
Sure.
Some of the key pointers: 14-litre tank, and I guess I've got very little to say about this bike, which is in any way kind of negative. But I think I probably would talk about the fuel gauge again. I do think it can be a little bit on the misleading side. I mean, before we went out this morning, I brimmed the tank, and it does tend to kind of just fluctuate quite a lot. I mean, obviously it will depend on how you're riding the bike. If you're giving it a lot of beans and then you're cruising, it can alter that sort of level of MPG that you're doing. But it's kind of an interesting one. Anyway, so 14-litre tank, 169 kilos dry, horsepower 103, I think. And then you've got 87 newton meters of torque. We'll come back to the power in a second, but also there's lots and lots of talk about the suspension on this bike, isn't there? You've got WP, but it is non-adjustable suspension, and I think it differs from multiple reviews, one review to the next, in terms of how people feel about it. I am not a track monkey. Honestly, that's just not kind of the thing that I'm doing when I ride my bike. And I've got to say, at no point did I think, there's too much bounce, there's not enough control, the ride's not plushing up. It worked really well for me. I think, although it is non-adjustable, KTM have done a fantastic job of setting the bike up really, really well, so that it works it's particularly on the road, in almost any environment, regardless of how spirited your riding is. I think that's an important point. But yeah, so WP suspension.
Well, I'll just comment very quickly on the suspension, actually, because obviously I ride a sports bike, and certainly with regards to the name of the Scalpel, I was kind of expecting a feel very similar to my bike, because obviously it's a sports bike. It is definitely softer, and it is, and I would tend to just like it just ever so slightly harder, or at least be adjustable. I think that would be a really great upgrade if you could perhaps buy a 790 Duke R or well, there
is talk about that. There is talk about there being. There generally is, when you look at. Almost this is the love child of the 390 and the 1290. When you look at the Super Duke, there is an R variant of that. It comes with upgraded everything, and you can have a kind of sharper instrument if you want to. I think. As a launch bike, I'm not sure necessarily that I think it's too soft.
No.
I think it works for everyday road use, and I think that's.
Oh yeah, and
it's very much a personal taste thing again, isn't it?
Don't get me wrong, I haven't took it to its max either. I'm not that type of rider, and obviously we're on the roads as well.
Sure.
It is good. Don't hear me wrong, but it's perhaps not quite as scalpely as I kind of expect it from the
Interesting point. We've talked about how well this bike goes. What about how well it stops?
Well, the brakes, I think the brakes are pretty good actually, Mark. I mean, they're not the strongest that I've ever experienced, but they are good. They are good, and they do stop. There's plenty of power. I think they're pretty good, Mark. No complaints really.
No, I would be inclined to agree with you, although they're not, some brand like Brembo.
Yeah.
They do the job. And of course, because the curb weight is so light, actually you're not hauling down in a massive amount of weight, even combined with the rider. So
sure.
For me, we've been hammering them all day. I've not noticed any fade. The lever feel is good. I've been able to modulate how much brake I put in. It works really, really well. I'm super impressed with that as well. Electronics.
Yeah.
It's what KTM are doing on most of their bikes at the moment. Full electronic suite, lean angle sensor, ABS and traction control. And of course, you've got a track mode for this bike as well.
Yeah.
And with the track mode, you've got a launch control, which we might have had a play with today. And you've got anti-wheelie. So, you can obviously, you can go in and you can tailor that on this system. I've had no instruction. It's super, super simple to use. And it works incredibly well. We've been on the airfield today and apart from one slightly embarrassing stall, which meant I lost the race, it works really, really well. Quick shifter. Again, there's been lots of talk about that, and I have suffered a little bit with false neutrals today. But if you're positive with the changing, it doesn't really represent any problem. I really, really like that. I think that enhances the riding experience of almost any motorcycle, regardless of what sector it sits in. I think it does a really good job. I think it's quite interesting, your impression coming off your sports bike onto this, which I think we should maybe just briefly touch on, is when you look at the competitors in the market, and of course the Street Triple is the benchmark, let's be honest, Triumph Street Triple, and then you've got Yamaha's MT-09, you've got Kawasaki's Z900, but the Street Triple is effectively based on their Daytona. So the kind of the general underpinnings of that bike is a sports bike, whereas with this is a little bit kind of supermoto and naked. It's got no kind of the underneath, what's hidden is not
different.
Sport bike.
Yeah.
So I don't think you would ever get that impression if you rode this bike that there's some sort of lineage there that is attached to a sport bike, because there isn't.
No.
And that's quite interesting too. But I guess that kind of leads us into talking about what we think is the kind of the best middleweight contender out there right now. When you talk about MT-09, you talk about Street Triple, you talk about Z900. I've got to be honest, again, at this price point, everybody says, oh, the Street Triple, but everybody buys a Street Triple RS. So that is the top spec bike, but it is north of 10.
It's north of 10.
And so when you compare it to this, okay, it might have adjustable suspension, it makes a little bit more power, but fun for the pounds that you spend. I'm not sure there's a better bike in the market than this one.
Obviously, there's the sticker price, but there's also some really great deals out now for this bike. Yeah. I mean, I did see it actually. Because obviously you get a bike you like, and of course you're looking at the internet how much is it going to cost. I think I saw one deal, £99 deposit and £130 a month on PCP, like 4,000 miles and a year and 4 years or something. For me, that is ridiculously good value for a bike like this.
Yeah, you're getting a huge amount of motorcycle, aren't you, for what you're spending?
Yeah.
And again, I think that's a really important point when you talk about what is available, what you can choose from. That is a big part of the decision-making process, isn't it? What it's actually going to cost you.
Yes.
And how much enjoyment you're going to get out of the money that you're spending. And I honestly, I've had a Street Triple. I've not had the new 765 variant.
Okay.
I have ridden that bike, and I've got to say it is a very impressive motorcycle. But for the money, I'm struggling to find something that's going to be better value than this thing.
Really interesting.
I'm sold.
Good. Styling. We should talk about styling.
We definitely should, yeah.
Well, when I first saw this bike, as I said, I really I couldn't quite box it. And that's kind of how the bike rolls, really. Can you put it in a box? Maybe not. I have to say, I really like the styling now. I don't think it's pretty from every angle, I'll be honest. I think from the rear it's, leaves something to be desired. I'd want to do something with this rear end, definitely. I think that's, for me, is a little bit of an eyesore. And the mirrors, perhaps we'll talk about the mirrors, but the mirrors...
perhaps we shouldn't.
Not that great. But from this front three-quarter angle, I just think it looks mean. I think it looks really, really cool. I love it.
I completely agree. Again, you know, we talk about the sort of the fundamental architecture of KTM's road bikes now, and you do get this really kind of sharp style nose and light section. I really, really like that. I've got to say, these are not the nicest things I've ever seen. I don't really understand why you need to put a rubber gaiter around a wing mirror. It doesn't make any sense to me. So that would be the first thing I'd change. And in quick succession, I would do exactly the same as you. There'd be a tail tidy going on this. I think
but they're two easy additions, you know. So first thing you do, you take these off, you put the little handlebar mirrors on, which are really easily accessible. I think you can find them on Amazon or eBay or something like that. It's dead straightforward. And you put a tail tidy on there. And if me, you know, I'd probably put a seat cowl on it as well. And then by that point, you're done. You know, there's no need to change the exhaust. The exhaust looks great, sounds great. You know, what else would you need to do?
I love this pipe. I mean, I know people have been making less complimentary noises about it because the original concept had a centre exit exhaust. But of course, they have to homologate it for the road. That was what they came up with, and I've got to say, I think it looks fantastic. I again would tail tidy, I'd chop all this up. I changed the mirrors, but other than that, I love it. I really like the lines of the tank and the fairings. I think they look fantastic. I think it is a really sharp-suited bike. The proportions are great, and it is super comfortable as well. We haven't spoken about that. You know, the seat's really good. I've probably done, crikey, 3 or 4 hours on it today over the course of what we've been up to, and I've had no issues. It's been easy to ride. Riding position is great. The only one other thing, of course, which is effectively what you would get with any naked bike, you've got very little wind protection, and you do get blown about a bit. You know, it's not super turbulent air, but you just have to expect that if you're going to ride this bike on a motorway at 70 miles an hour, you are going to get some buffeting, aren't you?
Well, I don't think this is the kind of bike that you're going to go and do like a really long tour on it. No. For me, this is about short blasts. This is about commuting. This is about having as much fun in a short space of time as you can have. That's the type of bike for me that this is.
Yeah. If we're going to wrap it up and come to conclusions, you know, I think we're completely in agreement here. What a great bike! What a fun bike! What an intoxicating bike! You know, so easy to ride. More than enough power, in my opinion, for the road. More than enough power. Loads of torque. Instant grunts when you wind on the throttle. It just goes. Quick shifter. It is just huge fun. That's the thing I would take away from riding this bike today.
Just a barrel of laughs.
Yes.
Yeah. So look, that has been our review of the KTM 790 Duke. I'm just a massive fan. I think you are as well, Mark.
I couldn't agree more. What a great bike. If you're in the market for a middleweight, you want a load of fun, massive bang for your buck, you shouldn't look further than this KTM.
Sure. Totally agree, and I couldn't be more enthusiastic about it. And you know, likewise, really enjoyed shooting with it. I've really enjoyed putting this together. I think it's been so much fun, actually. So with that in mind, I really hope you've enjoyed this review. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, please subscribe, please like, please leave us a comment, and we will see you next time.